Happy Saturday, Chris here, checking in live from the house on the break. I was supposed to have an interview today, but it got rescheduled. But I don't mean that in a negative way. I am honored, and it's a privilege and an honor to get interviews. I'm so grateful for that. And I was going to make a podcast episode anyway, and I'm grateful for all the interviews that I've had thus far. I was taking a break because I was working on my proposal presentation script. I really missed the option of having two screens, but I don't have that anymore at my work computer. And yeah. So I'm going back and forth. I've been typing up the scripts because I'm doing my first, like, I won't say practice. I'm practicing already, but like excuse me, practicing session with people tomorrow at 11 on Zoom, and I'll probably do it again at 6. Ask them if they got time, and then I ask them again on Wednesday. Y'all got time? Or ask can we if they don't say, because they're people that really want to write. So if people wanna go in a separate room, that's cool too. I think you go down to the bottom and create breakout rooms. So, or ask, so I just plan it to not use the time, but that's what I'm doing. So that's it. Oh, how am I feeling? Oh, I have a myriad of emotions if we're being real and honest about it. And it's not just myriad emotions about proposal, though it's some of that. I think the other experiences that I am having is May. May is always since my dad passed in 2023, it's a myriad of experiences, the way grief shows up. Trigger warning, I'm talking about grief or death and death. And not just solely because of my dad. I don't think it's solely that. I think there are things that have happened since then that don't have anything to do, or maybe it does. I don't know. I often, as I like to say, this month I can't call it. I can't call it. I can't call it at all. I'm just navigating and doing the best I can, like most people are. I know this week went pretty well. I did interviews. I worked on research. I worked on my talking points. That's pretty much been my practice. Being on sabbatical is doing research projects. And it's kind of like you go from periods where it took a long time to wrangle and get things together, and now you have, if I'm using an analogy of a chef, you have a lot of things on the stove and in the oven, and you watch it and taking care of all of it as best you can, trying not to burn nothing. so that's how it feels. And yeah, yesterday I think I dealt with some anxiety because in the evening time I had tried to call my mom, and it was like 8 o'clock, and I called her. It was 8 o'clock Eastern, and it was 7 something. It was 7 Central, and I called her, and she didn't answer, which I thought was odd because it's after 7. I mean, it's 8 o'clock. So, and generally in her routine and experience, the caregiver has already gone. She's already taken her own bath, and she's generally by 8 o'clock sitting in the chair, with her phone. You know, my brother is around with either listening to the radio or watching TV. So she didn't answer her phone. And then I waited a little while and I called back again, and she still didn't answer. So that for me brings up the anxiety of suddenness. And you say suddenness because of why? Well, my mother was the one that was calling me when my dad that I didn't know at the time was unresponsive, but he was unresponsive to her calls. So she was calling me to ask me to go see what was going on because she couldn't get him to answer the phone. And for me, not getting her to answer the phone or not hearing from her in this time that passed is like, it brings up anxiety, or it brings up anxiousness. It brings up, is something wrong? It brings up that for me. And I called my cousin, and my cousin was like, yeah, I talked to your mom this morning. And she has her own parents. And then she told me that her parents were visiting her. Well, she's dealing with the fact that while her dad's health is great, her mother sometimes goes back and forth with memory issues. I don't think it's related to dementia. It's something else that's a part of whatever's going on. But again, no one owes you disclosure, and they haven't ever really disclosed specifically what it is. You just know that it is something, and some days are better than others. And they've already looked into, at some point or whenever they decide the time is right, they're gonna move to the basement of where my cousin lives. They've already started plans for that. And in the case of my mother, she's already redone the house so that it's accessible for a chair or a walker so she can get in and around the shower. It's wide enough spaces for that. It's also the space that my brother knows the most. So there's that. And but yet I realized talking to Marcy didn't alleviate anything. Because what can she fix? Not because she's not being a good anything or not providing information. It's just realizing that there isn't a resolve for that. And also, it doesn't necessarily matter how close I live. My mother is still and has autonomy in her own body, my mind, thankfully. We all do. So there's no proximity that I can live in that stops death or stops sudden and changes that can happen in any and everyday life. Um, so just dealing with that. And then we got off the phone. I sat around for a little while, tried to focus my mind on something else, and then my mother called me, and she was doing fine. She took a bath. She was like, she was in the shower. She was like, there was a new caregiver that had started in the evening, and my mother was like, it was her first day. I don't really know her, so when I don't know the caregiver at first, it takes a while for me to just be gone in the house. Taking her bath when they're there. So she says she was also training her. So that's what it was for me. What did I learn from that? To quote my father's favorite scripture, trust in the Lord with your own heart, your own what is it? Trust in the Lord and lead not into your own understanding. And I guess I think about that because it's like, you realize that I realize for me, I'm not in Georgia, and it doesn't matter when I'm in Georgia or near Georgia. People live their own lives, and all you can do is call and check up on them, or if you're in close proximity, go by and see up on them, see how they're doing. But that's really all you can do. I don't know. I don't have a resolve for that, but that's what I was dealing with. And I guess I think about the trust part for the scripture because what else can I do? Anxiety and worry doesn't really help. It didn't help me in that situation. It doesn't help me in much, but I think I realized that a lot because like whenever the Helene happened in Georgia, there was a period where none of the phone services were working, nothing. And so it was like a night where you don't know how they're doing. You don't know anything. And all you can do is wait. And I think in most day life, that's all you can do is you can reach out to people, you can connect with them, but you are not necessarily waiting, but it's like a back and forth. not just, I don't know if any of that makes sense. My emotions today feel like they're all over the place. It's wanting to do well for my dissertation proposal. Realizing also it's not an oratory performance. It's just that you're talking about, what your plan is, and you're just trying to break it down in the smallest, not smallest, but you're trying to break it down in a way that's like, even if you've never thought about this topic before, if you've never heard of it, this is what it is. This is what it means. This is why it matters. This is what I'm doing. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, conducting interviews and dealing with the fact that, when it comes to people, everyday people, people and academic people have lives. So sometimes you can think a time is going to work out and then it doesn't. Like I realized that in my own life. Because I was supposed to go to an event yesterday, but I ended up canceling because I was tired. I mean, I was up since 6 with writing group and different errands that I had to do and interviewing. And by the time it came to close to 7 o'clock to go to a party, I couldn't do it. And I also realized too that I thought that I was going to be free to go on Sunday, but I'm facilitating a writing call. And like I just said earlier, I want to use that time to practice giving the presentation. So I'm gonna probably try to go by the person's house, maybe about 4 or 5, and say I can't make it. I forgot I had a call, but I wanted to give you, I did get a birthday card. So I definitely wanted to do that. Or maybe I definitely wanted to do that. Because I'm thinking about what it is that, and I think that's a new experience for me. Think about what does Chris need, not the fact that there are other people that invite you to things. And while it's an honor and privilege to get invited, to be considered, I'm not saying that. Just realizing I didn't realize that when I had said yes to coming, I didn't look at the calendar, and only today did I realize, no, you're a call facilitator. And normally I would be like, oh yeah, you can, probably switch with somebody, but a lot of the people that I would switch with are graduating. Which is the point of one of the many points of Qual Scholars is people finish their dissertations. So several of them, I call them the OGs of the Qual Scholars, are doctors such and such now. So yeah, that's why. Even though there are some more call facilitators coming later in the summer and fall. So, and I love that community. So, and there's stuff I need to work on. So there's that. So while it's work in community with others, and I always appreciate those spaces. So that's my podcast for today. I'm just out here navigating emotions and looking at them and realizing that sometimes I don't have a resolve for it. For the There's Grief group this week because I will be there on Wednesday. Also, what was it? After I got back from my haircut on yesterday, I had eaten my lunch and I was fixing to go into Granger, and I met two. They were the Jesus Church of Latter-day Saints. I think that's who they were. They were representatives from there, and they wanted to talk to me, or they said, "Hey," and I responded, hey, how you doing? It's always the experience of the evangelist. They want to talk to you about Jesus. And I was like, yeah, I know Jesus. Me and Jesus are real good. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, cool. You got, and I was like, I don't have time. Unfortunately, I can't stay here. I mean, you're not staying. I did say I can't, can't stand or take time to talk right now because I'm going to meet, because I was literally going in the library because I had to get prepared for my interview that was coming up. But I said, it's really great to meet you. And they said, oh, can we text you from time to time? I don't know why I said yes, but I did. Because I was like, oh, whatever. And then they called me this morning and they wanted to invite me to church. I have not. I can tell you the churches that I've gone to recently, which would be Bethel AME, and that was earlier this year. I watch it online from time to time, but I watch, some services online, or I at least watch the sermons, later. But they were like, I was like, I can't. I told them, I said, hey, I can't promise you that I'm gonna come to church tomorrow because I'm preparing for my preliminary exam. So, um, part of me wanted to tell him the title, so they stopped calling me. Jesus loved me. So anyway, or not. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because then they called. Like I said, I told you they called, and then I said after I told them that I wasn't gonna make it, they were like, "Well, can we?" I asked them. I said, "Well, y'all got church online? Can I watch it?" They were like, "No, they don't really do. They don't do church online." I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And then they were like, how about a Zoom call about Jesus? I was like, a Zoom call about Jesus. I was like, all right, cool. What day y'all thinking? And so I think it's gonna be Tuesday. This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna show up as me. So anyway, that's interesting. But this has happened to me before because I remember when I was living in Georgia and I had finished college. Sometimes the Jehovah Witness people would come and knock on the door, and I would, I'm saying, I wasn't going to work yet, or sometimes I didn't even have a job, so I would stand out there and talk to them because why not? And then I remember that because that brings up a memory of my dad because he was saying later one time, I apparently I had stood there and talked to that person for a long time, and then they went on about their way. And then shortly after, I had got a job, so I wasn't available anymore. But I was still living with my parents, and they must have shown up. And then my dad was there, and he talked with them. And then later he was like, "You was talking to the Jehovah Witness?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I was just having conversation. I'm not becoming a Jehovah Witness." He was like, "I wasn't saying that." He said, "They told me your whole conversation." So I don't know. I think sometimes the reality is conversation is cool. Sometimes, if I got space, I listen to you. I listen sometimes. But I know how it goes with certain groups when you and I know my past experiences. I don't know this person and what they believe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not as deeply in church services or church related spaces as I used to be. Even though, I read, when I say I'm not in the space, I mean I haven't done Encouraging Your Spirit in some time. It isn't a negative reason. I love that space. It was always great. I just have been working on other things. And, I read devotionals every day. I listen to gospel music all the time, or, read something or do some meditational practice. I just don't always make that a YouTube video or a Zoom space. I don't always do it that way. I've thought about it, but I have not resumed that yet. So that's what I feel about that. So thanks for listening to me ramble. I gotta get back to practicing presenting. I think I'm gonna go print these slides because what I have right now doesn't work. Well, I think it's me. I haven't figured out how it works. So I gotta I updated my talking points and I want to print them out. I mean, maybe by the time Friday happens, I will have figured out how to put the notes on the slide and see them when I present, but it isn't in this present moment. So I'll get that done or later today because I do have one more interview scheduled for today. So I probably won't do that until after I get done with that. Yeah. So I hope you're doing everything you can. How's your day going? I hope you're doing everything you can to take care of yourself and be well. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Wiley.